Well, it's March and it's time for this month's Ponderings from the Polytunnel. So let's start, as we traditionally do, with the animals. So we've had a lot of snow recently and poorer weather, which means extra feeding and extra checking, but they're all doing absolutely fine. So the horses are settled, happy, they're all in together at the moment. And they've been having extra feed, extra cuddles, make sure they've got their rugs on, and they're doing fine. They're just chilling, and as I say, it's just a case of making sure they've got plenty to eat, especially when there's thick snow on the ground, because of course they can't get to the grass, so they've been having extra fodder, but they're fine. The chickens are laying again, and we're getting a decent amount of eggs a day. They're still under chicken lockdown or flockdown. Who knows when it'll lift? It's still very early. Last year it went on for quite some time, but they're happy, milling about, and as I say, they're laying again, which is great. The sheep are still down in their winter paddock. They're all absolutely fine. Although I have to say, when it snows, they do look particularly dirty. When you see them white against the green, they always look so fresh and lovely. But when it snows, their whiteness goes a bit mucky looking against the brightness of the snow. But they're absolutely fine. Victor the tortoise is doing fine. I've managed to find a few dandelions for him, which are his absolute favourite. Spring is on its way, and as I say, the dandelions are coming through, so that makes him a very happy boy. And Kaylee, so Kaylee's now an only hound, but you know, she's doing really well. I've been taking her into work with me more than I would have done. We're just making sure that it's a balance between making sure she gets what she needs, but not making her over clingy. So she's doing a few things that she didn't used to do. She did a little bit of random barking, and she's a little bit clingy, but she's settling back into a routine. And I think, you know, on a bizarre level, she is enjoying the one-to-one and having to share us. But yeah, so she's doing okay. Say she has some jollies into work. We have an armchair in work in the kitchen area where we go and take breaks, and she loves climbing up into that chair. So yeah, she's done a few day shifts with me and a few night shifts with me, and she absolutely loves coming in. She gets really excited. She gets the interaction with the other team members, and she gets to get into her favourite armchair. So she's doing okay. I am still reading the Ellie Griffiths Dr. Ruth Galloway mystery series. Absolutely loving them. I'm on to book 5. I'm whizzing through them. There's, I think, 10 or 11 in the series. So yeah, really enjoying them. And so far, I do find sometimes when I'm reading a series, they can get a little bit samey. And sometimes I have to stop and maybe go and read something else and then pick one up again. But so far, although the kind of basic storylines are similar, they chop and they change, and every time you think, oh, where are they going to go this time? Woof, off they go on another avenue. So really enjoying those. We've just finished watching the series White Collar. We really enjoyed that. And to be honest with you, I've been crazy busy with work. Got a huge amount on at work at the moment. And then with the bad weather, of course, the farm, you know, making sure everybody's fed and watered and warm just takes an awful lot of extra time. So I haven't had a lot of spare time, if I'm honest. So the spare time I've had, I've been curling up with a book. We haven't had a huge amount of time to watch things. And also, Chris and I have been a little bit, you know, he's at work, I'm at work. We're not really seeing each other, with me doing night shifts and him doing days. And then he's been away for a couple of days on a course. So we haven't seen a lot of each other. And that's generally when we sit and watch things together. And we haven't had that time that we normally would. So we haven't started really watching anything else yet. And then, of course, I like to catch up with my favourite YouTubers. So I've been watching a few of my favourite YouTube channels. But as I say, not a huge amount of time for watching things. I have managed to get out and do some wild swimming. Not as much as I would like, a combination of time and weather. But we did get out, myself and my swim buddy Jules, and oh, it was just so good to be back in the water. It was a perfect day. The sun was twinkling on the water. It was really cold, and because I hadn't been for a while, I really felt it. But once I got in and got swimming, absolutely loved it. And then of course we soon got warmed up with a hot drink. Now in February's Ponderings, I mentioned that I'd won a little mini retreat, which I went to. It was in Cheshire, and oh goodness, it was absolutely fantastic. So it was 3 hours of meditation, yoga and sound healing. It was just so lovely. I don't really like driving to places that I don't know, but actually, I found it without any problems at all. It was a beautiful day and the sun was shining, so it was actually nice. I drove actually partly on the country lanes, and it was gorgeous, and the venue was lovely, and the people were lovely, and I got so much from it. And of course, it felt all that better because I hadn't actually paid for it. I won it. The garden, not a huge amount going on. This time last year we were in glorious sunshine and I was in a t-shirt, and in fact I've got a recollection that I started some potatoes. That may have been the year before last actually, but in a vest top. And last year was much the same. We really did have what we thought was going to be a false spring, and it kept kind of going hot and then cooling off. This year we haven't had that hot. We had a couple of nice days, but we haven't had real t-shirt weather yet. So everything is just a little bit behind. Is it behind? Slower, shall we say slower? Because do you know what? I've had seasons like this before and everything catches up in the end. So you can probably see I've got a few bits and bobs going behind me. I've got a little bit of germination on, well, I've got good germination and some good growth now on the sweet peas and the shallots. The rest of the seeds haven't been in long and I wouldn't expect any germination yet. And then just out of sight where you can't see, I direct sowed some carrots into that bed, and there's no germination on those yet, but I genuinely wouldn't expect it. So I've got stuff I need to be doing outside. The rain's actually just stopped, but it's a dull day and it's been blowing a hoolie and hammering down with rain for the bulk of today, which is days like this one. I love being able to have the polytunnel because I can still come in and have a little potter. So today I'm going to do a little bit of watering. I'm going to do a little bit more seed sowing. I really wanted to go out and get some compost this morning actually, but the weather was just awful, and to get to the place I wanted to get the compost means going along some back country lanes, and I don't like taking the car out if I don't have to, when it's really proper blustery wind and rain. So it's just not worth taking the car out. There'll be a lot of debris on the road, a lot of standing water. I'm not going to go out if I don't have to. So the compost can wait. What I want to do is top up, good top dressing on the beds outside, and I want to top up some of the beds in here, and then of course have plenty left over for my sowing and then potting on. Everywhere's looking pretty good. I am ready for spring. The only bed that needs some attention in the way of weeding now is still that flower bed, and the days that I had where I would have done that, it was just covered in snow. So not, just you can't do it. Those little daffodil bulbs that I planted into that bed, they're starting to spike up. The daffodils that are established daffodils in the garden, they are quite tall now, and they're starting to get the flower heads, but nothing's in bloom yet. Just one little bunch that always come out early, and they're beautiful, like almost a triple quadruple head. I don't know what variety. They were here when we moved in, and they're in the chicken area, and because they're behind the chicken coop, we don't see them. So I actually picked those just at the point where they were not quite flowering, brought them in, put them into a vase, and then of course the warmth brought them out, and they've been absolutely beautiful, but still waiting for the rest to bloom really. So they are, we're always a little bit later here because we're a little bit colder and we're a little bit higher up. And then underneath the oak tree, I can definitely see signs of all those lovely spring bulbs that I've put in over previous years, and they're starting to come up. So there's tulips, We've already had some lovely crocuses, there's some anemones I've just noticed, but they're not all quite there yet, so it won't be long before we'll have hopefully a real riot of spring bulb mix under that oak tree, and I'll share that with you when they come up. And really, I haven't got a lot else to tell you, because between recovering from having been poorly, having an awful lot on at work, having had a few commitments here, we haven't had a lot of spare time. So yeah, not really a lot going on, and I think it's much the same for everybody, isn't it, at this time of the year? As gardeners, we're itching to get growing, weather's not great, so yeah, not really a lot else to tell you. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Drop me some comments below. What have you been up to? Book recommendations, film recommendations, places you might have been to visit. What have you been up to? Or are you in a similar place to me where you've not really been doing a lot, but you're just plodding along? But I hope that you're all keeping well and keeping your heads above water. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take good care, and I'll see you all really, really soon.